Smokepit Fairytales by Trip Ainsworth. Chapter 2. Barracks duty, blood, vomit, and ninja punches. I hadn't done anything besides drink since I got back from Afghanistan. I'd go through the motions at work, then drink at the barracks with Doc until I felt like I could sleep. More often than not, just a few hours before morning formation. Why the fuck can't we have alcohol in the barracks, Doc? I asked.
I don't know. It's fucking stupid, man.
Doc took a swig of his whiskey. I mean, we're allowed to have a six-pack and that's it. That's encouraging drinking and driving. Like, I'm gonna drink 6 beers, then drive to the PX for more? Fucking stupid! I started to rant.
Yeah, like, why do they trust us to go 10,000 miles away from home and kill people with millions of dollars worth of equipment, but they don't let us have bourbon in the barracks?
Because they're fucking with us. I flicked my cigarette off the balcony. Yeah, I'm going to bed, dude. My staff sergeant's got us doing a fucking death run tomorrow morning.
Have fun with that shit, man.
Doc said goodnight. I fell into my chair with a bottle of spice rum and opened my computer. I did what I normally did when I was that drunk. I opened up my pictures folder and looked through my old photos. I found myself looking at pictures of my old girlfriend, Satin. I wanted to blame her for the breakup, but I knew everything that happened was my fault. I hated myself for causing us to split. I took a swig of the rum and stared at the light illuminating her face. My heart had a chunk of iron weighing it down. Things were so long ago to me. Being in the Corps in 23 wasn't much different than being 19, except for I had 2 deployments to Afghanistan under my belt, and I felt like a dumbass. I looked at my deployment photos. I fucking hated the way our unit worked. I was a combat cameraman in the 1st Marine Division. We would attach to the infantry to deploy, then return to our home unit when we got back. I was assigned to 2nd Battalion, 7th Marines, and they were up in 29 Palms, 3 hours away. And no one ever has friends like they make at war. I'd venture to say that that's the strongest bond you could ever build with another human being. All my war buddies were hours away. Doc was in the same boat with me. He was one of the corpsmen that got slung around all over the place. We just happened to deploy together. He lived a few floors up from me at the barracks on Camp Margarita, and he also went on 2 7s deployments. The Marine Corps wasn't a good model for logistical efficiency. With all the shit going through my head, I needed someone to talk to. And a cigarette. Fuck it. I'll stay up and just die on the run tomorrow. I looked out the window. Doc was still downstairs smoking. I figured I'd go smoke and bullshit with him for a bit more. In my half-drunken stupor, I didn't think to put the bottle of rum away before I left the room. I kept it in my hand. When I opened the door, the officer of the day just so happened to be walking right in front of me. He stopped, eyeballed me from head to toe, and saw the coca-colored liquid swishing around in the glass bottle. He turned his body to face mine. Devil Dog, what the fuck is that? The short Mexican gunnery sergeant knife-handed me. Fucking great, I thought to myself. I was about to get the full extent of the big green digital weenie, and there was going to be absolutely no lube. I presented the bottle of hooch to the gunny. Spice rum, contraband material which is unauthorized in these barracks, gunnery sergeant. The gunny snatched the bottle out of my hand. Well, if it's contraband, why is it in your possession, Marine? I stood at parade rest, or the best I could manage at that point. Because I'm a stupid-ass Lance Corporal, gunnery sergeant. He demanded my ID. He wrote my information down and stormed off. I went back into the room, closed the door, and fell face first onto my rack. I stood in front of the company gunnery sergeant's office the next morning. Standing there, all I could think of was that I knew better than to do something stupid and get caught like that. In garrison, the difference between a good Marine and a bad Marine was his ability not to get caught breaking the rules. From the gunnery sergeant's office came a loud, "Allensworth, get the fuck in here!" I marched into the room and centered myself in front of the gunny's desk at the position of attention. "Good morning, gunnery sergeant. Lance Corporal Allensworth reporting as ordered." "You know why you're in here, devil?" He barked. The officer of the day found my rum, gunnery sergeant. "Yeah, that's it." The gunnery sergeant produced the bottle and placed it on the desk. "Stand at ease." I complied. "You know the commanding officer's policy on no hard liquor or glass bottles in the barracks, right?" "Yes, gunnery sergeant." "Then what the fuck, Marine?" "Dumbass Lance Corporal, gunnery sergeant." "And you think that's an excuse?" "No, gunnery sergeant, it's not." "Do you have anything to validate your blatant disregard for the rules and regulations, or is it just that good order and discipline does not apply to you?" "I'm not making any excuses, gunnery sergeant." Don't dig the hole any deeper, Hank. "Drinking alone in the dark in the middle of the week? Do you have an alcohol problem?" "No, gunnery sergeant, I was just up there drinking for no reason." The gunnery sergeant began to rant. His volume steadily rose as he spoke. "Oh, well, that just makes everything better. You obviously know the commander's policy, and you're about to face the fucking consequences. I'm gonna run you up the flagpole. Marines in this barracks have been getting away with this shit too long. I would just let you get away with it too, but you've probably been getting away with it for a while." The gunnery sergeant stood and started knife-handing me. "I'm gonna make an example out of you. You're gonna be a private before the end of the fucking week, Marine. How long have you been getting away with this shit anyway?" "Since I got back from my 2nd deployment to Afghanistan a few months ago." The gunnery sergeant gave me a confused look. "You've been overseas, Marine?" "Twice to Afghanistan." "Just how long have you been in?" Gunny demanded. "A bit shy of 3 years." "And how long were your deployments?" 9 and 7 months. "Why are you still a Lance Corporal? Have you been in trouble before?" "No, gunnery sergeant, my op field just promotes slower than the infantry does." The gunnery sergeant glared at me over a heavy breath. "Get the fuck out of my office and don't let me see you again unless it's at company PT." Aye, aye, gunnery sergeant. I stood at attention. "Good. Get the fuck out!" I about faced and scurried out of the company office down to the smoke deck on the side of the building and lit a cigarette. That Thursday, I had barracks duty. The corporal on duty with me was a 2 Urban Communications platoon boot. You learn a lot by a Marine just by looking at his uniform. It's like a visual resume. You can see where they've deployed to or whether or not they're water walkers or skaters. The corporal spent most of the day touring the barracks. I knew he was napping or playing video games, but I didn't really care. That was less time I had to sit there and listen to him run his suck about how cool he thought boot camp was. I still hadn't heard anything from the company about non-judicial punishment. Maybe I was in the clear. Private First Class Kelly was sick in quarters. I didn't particularly like Kelly. He was a malingering piece of shit who had the choice to go to Afghanistan but declined. It was between him and another guy. The other guy went instead. Kelly came down to the duty hut mid-morning. "Lance Corporal, I'm sick. I'm going to go lay down." "Okay." I didn't care enough to look at him. "You're SIQ, right?" "Yeah." He breathed out of his mouth. "Then go lay down. That's what SIQ is for." Kelly disappeared back up the stairs. I returned to reading the porno mag on the desk, texting Kennedy and listening to the news on the TV on the other side of the room. The local news network talked about political tensions between Iraq and Iran, North Korea pulling their usual jackassery, and the mayor of Los Angeles' new crime program, and Russia's interest in the Baltic states. None of this was really news to me. Some Marine had the day off and checked in a female visitor. Someone's having a good day. I smiled watching the short brunette walk up the stairs and went back to my money shot mag. I looked up and saw Kelly standing at the head of the desk again, this time wrapped in a blanket. "What, Kelly?" I returned my attention to the tits in the magazine. "I feel really sick." "Do you need to go to the Naval Hospital?" My eyes were still glued to the alluring redhead displaying her irresistible sex. "No." I sighed and looked up. "Do you need to get some ginger ale for your stomach or go to the PX for anything?" "Not really." "What about douche to get the sand out of your pussy?" "No, I just wanted to keep you updated." "Kelly!" I pointed to the stairwell. "Go back to your fucking room and don't come back down unless you actually need something." He went back to his room and I stared at my desk with my forehead in my hand. I zoned out staring at the fake grain on the particle board table. "Lance Corporal Allensworth?" Kelly's voice scratched my ears again not 5 minutes later. "What, Kelly?" I snapped my head back up. "What the fuck do you want?" Kelly said in a calm tone. I'm trying to kill myself." "What?" I demanded, not completely registering what he said. I'm trying to kill myself. I took a bunch of pills." I wanted to scream at him to just go lay down in the corner and die, but as much as I hated being a Lance Corporal, I would have hated to be a private again a whole hell of a lot more. "Go stand outside." I dialed Corporal Scott's number. "Sup?" Scott said over the line. "Hey, Corporal, fucking Kelly just took a bunch of pills and he's trying to kill himself." "What?" "I'm on duty at the barracks and he's SIQ and he came down and told me he was trying to kill himself." "Well, don't call me. Call 911. I called an ambulance and walked outside. Kelly was standing facing away from me. I grabbed his back collar and kicked his legs out from beneath, leaving him half on his knees with his face on the ground. I stuck the 2 middle fingers of my other hand down his throat. Vomit gushed through the pavement, but not before spilling all over my Charlie uniform. I looked at the regurgitated mess on the sidewalk and saw the pills he had taken. I got in his face and pointed to the mess and screamed, "Kelly, are those motherfucking vitamin C tablets?" He hacked out, "Yes, Lance Corporal." I yanked him back up and sat him down against the wall. "Just sit there. Don't fucking move or say anything until the ambulance gets here." I wiped the puke off my arm and trousers. They were already ruined. I was going to smell like bile the rest of the day. "You're buying me a new pair of Chucks, boot." The paramedics arrived and hauled Kelly away. I went to the head to try to wash the gunk off myself. The water just smeared the puke, making it worse. I gave up. When the corporal showed back up, I explained the whole thing to him, and he logged it in the duty binder. The rest of the day dragged by. The Marine with the brunette from earlier came back down to check out of the visitor's log. The chick had a nice, thick head of I just got fucked hair. Around 2100, I saw Doc walk out of his room, leaving his door open. I crept up. On the floor laid a box of tidbits of plastic from a model kit. A perfectly built Model F-14 sat on the secretary. I picked it up and examined the details Doc put into it. He did a good job. I noticed the tube of glue sitting by where he had placed the model. I picked it up, applied a generous portion of adhesive onto the bottom of the landing gear, and placed it back on the secretary and left. I found Doc in the smoke pit burning a cigarette.
"What's up, man?"
Doc cheered. He had a big smile on his face and glazed eyes. "You drunk already?"
"Yeah, what about it, duty?"
"Nothing at all, man."
"What happened to your Chucks, dude?"
Some fucking boot puked on me."
Ha!
"Fuck off." I lit a cigarette and bullshitted with Doc for a bit. He was going on about someone he knew back in high school in Oklahoma. I intentionally egged him on about whatever drunken ramblings he was speaking about for about half an hour, mostly to give the glue on the plane time to dry. When he said he had just built this awesome model airplane and jabbed about how badass of a job he did, I asked, "That sounds cool, Doc. Can I see it?
Yeah, man.
Doc was excited to show off his new exhibit of plastic engineering. He waved at me to follow him upstairs. We got to his room, and he swung to grab the model airplane. His hand brought up the fuselage. The landing gear stuck firm to the desk. All the metal parts flew all over the room.
Son of a bitch!
Doc screamed. I just laughed. Ha! Looks like the MiG's got you, Maverick.
Oh, this ain't funny, man.
Doc looked around the room in the despair only a drunkard could have.
Oh, well.
He casually tossed the model out of the room. So what's going on tomorrow, man?
Oh, man, I got this stupid-ass class I have to teach.
On what? I stepped out to the catwalk and put a Lucky in my mouth.
It's some bullshit class on operational stress.
Huh?
Yeah, it's cool, though, man. The class will be boring, but...
Doc half hiccuped and half burped.
But I'm teaching you with this hot-ass lieutenant.
Doc, last week you were giving me shit about fucking girls that ain't my girlfriend. Doc gave me an indignant look.
Girlfriends aren't wives, man.
Doc, one day I'm going to write a book about the Marines I know, and everyone in the book I talk about is going to have their wife or girlfriend dump them before it's even half done with. Doc laughed and stumbled against the wall.
Whatever, man. Anyway, Lieutenant Chu.
Like a choo-choo train?
Yeah, man.
Doc exclaimed, realizing the correlation.
Dude, she's so hot. Tiny little body, short, silky black hair. I just wanna...
Doc pretended to fuck the invisible woman. All right, then. I took in a deep drag.
I'm a caller.
You do that! I smiled at the idea of a petty officer drunk dialing a lieutenant in the Navy. He whipped out his phone and put it to his ear.
Lieutenant Chu? Hey, what's going on? It's Doc Evans. How you doing? Nothing, just drunk dialing people.
Doc laughed and pointed at his phone.
Because it's Thursday night. Do I need a holiday? Huh? Well, yeah, it's
Doc looked at me.
What day is tomorrow?
It's Big Indian Day in Georgia. Doc gave his attention back to the phone.
It's Big Indian Day in Georgia tomorrow. And it's my 2-year anniversary with the stupid chick that left. I live in the... Of course I'll be safe. I live in the barracks. They put all people who are mature adults in the barracks.
Doc began to laugh at whatever Chu was saying on the other end of the phone.
I think I was told to be there at 7? Do you like Jim Beam?
Doc waited a few seconds to speak, and with a merry tone said,
Oh, well, good for you. Oh, what do you mean you're older? How old are you? You're like 25. Really? You're the first lieutenant who's older than me. Usually they're like half my age.
Chu began a long monologue. I couldn't hear anything she was saying, but Doc took the liberty of drinking more while she spoke.
Okay, well, I have like half a bottle to finish before I can go to bed. Well, I can't drink before. I can't drink at work, so I can't save the bottle for tomorrow.
I decided to butt into the conversation. Chugga, 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 chugga. Choo, choo!
Shut up, dude.
He fell on the ground, managing to keep the phone in his hand.
What's wrong with you?
He said, still laughing.
Yes, ma'am, I'll be safe.
Doc put his phone away. So how's she doing?
She's good, man. But hey, I gotta go to bed, man.
All right, Doc. I waved and walked back to the duty hut. All was quiet in the California night when I sat down. The news was telling more about the unrest in the Middle East and North Korea being a renegade state. I checked my phone. Kennedy had texted me that she had tomorrow night off and wanted to know if I was coming over. I sat there for a while and counted the stucco bumps in the ceiling. I still stank like vomit. And then I stared at the wall. There was nothing special about this wall, but there wasn't anything better to do than stare at it, so why not? I flipped through the duty log for some entertainment. Some female Marine was on duty a few days before. I had no idea who she was, but judging by her eloquent handwriting, she probably wore skin-toned satin panties and fucked like a tiger shark. A little before midnight, Soito, one of the Marines from battalion headquarters, came running down to the duty hut. Allensworth! I looked at him with half unconscious eyes. What? I need you out back. Soito gestured his thumb backwards. I followed him to the far side of the barracks where Doc was sitting half limp on the grass with an empty bottle of whiskey.
You fucking pogues missed the war! Why did you even fucking join? What the fuck?
He was just screaming at the building. No one specific. No one was outside with him and no one was watching him. At first, but Canada probably heard him yelling. A few Marines began to open their doors to see what moron was doing what this night of the week. Doc, who are you talking to?
All these fucking headquarters faggot pogues! They missed the fucking war, man! They missed the fucking war!
Doc dropped his head and began to sob. I kneeled down next to him and put my arm around him. With a sympathetic voice, I said, I know, buddy. I looked him over to make sure he wasn't hurt. Let's get you back to your room, okay?
No. How are they supposed to know that they weren't there, man?
I stood there for a few minutes trying to reason with Doc, and if you've ever tried to reason with a drunken sailor, I don't need to tell you about the futility of my efforts. One of the corporals in the barracks opened the door. Allensworth. Yes, Corporal. NCO involvement is the last thing I need. That's your boy, right? Yep. Take care of that trash. People are trying to sleep. Aye, Corporal. I looked up at Soido and said, hey, let me carry him to his room. Doc protested, but I didn't pay any attention to what he was saying. I grabbed Doc's shoulders and Soido got his feet. The whole way upstairs, Doc rambled about how the rest of the Marines and the barracks were useless because they never went to Iraq or Afghanistan. When we got Doc outside of his room, which was on the 5th deck, I fished his keys out of his pocket. While I was unlocking his door, Doc managed to stand up and pull the fire alarm. As soon as the siren started to blare, I screamed, God damn it, Doc! And knocked him out with a punch to the face. Soido, grab him and take him to his room. I gotta call the OOD and deal with this shit. I called the officer of the day. The phone rang long enough for the fire department to show up. I hung up the phone when they walked into the duty hut. Hey guys, there's no fire. Some asshole just pulled the fire alarm and ran off. I didn't see who did it. The firemen rolled their eyes. Where's the alarm? 5th deck. They opened an electrical box outside and silenced the alarm. I tried to call the OOD again. Nothing. I posted a sign that read duty on tour and walked to the command shack. I could see the top of the back of the OOD's head over the partition in the desk. Ah, great. He's sleeping on post. I went to shake him, but when I looked down, he wasn't sleeping. He had a gun in his hand. His brains were splattered across the opposite side of the desk. The last entry in his logbook was OOD. Bang. Fuck! I called the MPs. Hey everybody, thanks for listening to Smokepit Fairytales Chapter 2. I'd like to thank Chuck Lavacki for playing Doc. And then I'd also like to thank all my patrons and everybody that's bought a war chest. And hey, if you like the story, tell your friends, like, subscribe, all that good fun stuff you're supposed to say at the end of these things. Alright, I'll catch you around.